I'm Caleb, 35, the guy who's always there with a smile, a gift, or a helping hand. I remember everyone's birthdays show up early to parties and stick around to stack chairs or scrub plates. But my family, they've never made it easy to feel like I belong. I'm not the outcast, not exactly just the one they forget to notice. There's no big drama, no screaming fights, just a slow, steady drip of being left out. Group texts I'm not in. Jokes I don't get. Photos where I'm cropped out even when I was standing right there. For years, I told myself it was an accident. They're busy, I'd think. It's not about me. I clung to that excuse way too long, hoping if I kept showing up, kept being the good guy, they'd finally see me. But being ignored quietly is the worst. It's so easy for them to deny. No one says you're not wanted. They just make sure you stop expecting to be asked. Last month, I went to my niece Ava's 9th birthday at my sister Jenna's house. I brought her the art kit she'd been eyeing for months, even helped her sketch a glittery unicorn before the cake came out. After the party, while everyone else bailed, I stayed rinsing dishes in the sink while Jenna tapped away on her phone. We chatted about nothing, whether Ava's school, the usual. It felt okay, like maybe things were settling into place. As I dried my hands, I said, "Excited for the family barbecue this weekend. Been a while since we all got together." I meant it, picturing the annual cookout at my parents' place with burgers, music, and kids running wild. My cousin Marcus, who was picking at a cupcake, choked on a laugh. "Wait, you didn't hear. That was last night." My heart sank. I glanced at my Aunt Lila, who was wiping the counter, hoping it was a prank. But she pulled out her phone, no hesitation, and started scrolling. "Look at this," she said, showing me a video. There it was, my parents' backyard, string lights glowing, a long table packed with relatives. My uncles, cousins, even some family friends I hadn't seen in years. They were clinking glasses, laughing kids chasing each other with sparklers. My dad gave a toast about everyone who matters being here. Lila swiped again, more photos, more smiles, more proof. "This was when your mom brought out her famous peach cobbler," she said. Then paused, like she suddenly realized I wasn't in any of the shots. My face burned. I couldn't speak. Jenna, who'd been silent, looked up from her phone and said, "Guess you missed the memo, Caleb." Her tone wasn't mean, just flat, like she was stating a fact. Like I should have known better. The kitchen felt too small, the air too thick. I stood there, sponge in hand, while she went back to scrolling. Nobody said anything else. No apologies, no explanations, just quiet. I set the sponge down, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. I didn't even take the extra sketchbook I'd brought for Ava. Driving home, Jenna's words looped in my head. "Guess you missed the memo." Not angry, not sorry, just tired, like I was a problem for not getting it sooner. Like I'd been too dense to notice they didn't want me around. I'll be honest, I pulled over halfway home and cried. Not loud sobs, just the kind of tears that sneak out when you're too tired to hold them back. It wasn't about the barbecue. It was the clarity, sharp and brutal, that I wasn't part of their circle anymore. I was an extra, a guest they tolerated when I showed up with gifts or offered to help. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying years of moments I'd brushed off. The Christmas party, they said, was just close family. But I saw cousins there on social media. The group chat I stumbled into by accident, full of plans I was never told about. The birthdays they forgot to text me for while I never missed theirs. I'm not a vengeful guy. I don't hold grudges or plot ways to get even. But lying there, something shifted. I was done hoping. Done showing up with a smile, pretending it didn't hurt. Done giving them chances to remember me. I wanted out, not just from the barbecue or the group chats, but from the whole game of chasing their approval. And I knew it wouldn't be enough to just walk away. I needed to make it clear to draw a line they couldn't ignore. Not out of spite, but because I deserved better. I started with the money. See, I've done all right for myself. I'm a freelance web developer, and over the years I've built a solid nest egg. I own a couple of rental properties, nothing flashy but steady. My family doesn't ask about my life, so they don't know. They also don't know I've been quietly helping them out for years. When my parents' water heater died, I covered it through a charity fund I set up anonymously. When Jenna needed a new laptop for her side hustle, I sent one through a client gift. When Marcus's kid needed braces, I paid the bill, no questions asked. I never wanted thanks. I just wanted to be there for them. But after the barbecue, I saw it differently. They didn't see me as family, they saw me as a resource. A few days later, my mom called, voice shaky. "Caleb, the roof's leaking again. The guy said it's going to cost $10,000 to fix. We thought you had that fund set up, but he said it's gone." "What happened?" I took a breath. I shut it down. I said, calm but firm. "You'll have to figure it out." She stammered, confused. "But why?" I didn't explain. "I'm sure you and everyone at the barbecue can handle it," I said, then hung up. It felt cold, but it also felt right. That same day, I called my accountant. There were other things I'd been funding: Jenna's business subscriptions, my uncle's car repairs, even Ava's summer camp. I had the paperwork to pull it all. One by one, I canceled the payments. Notices went out. Accounts froze. I didn't say a word to anyone. By the end of the week, my phone was buzzing. Texts from Marcus, "Yo, what's going on with the camp money?" Voicemails from Jenna, her voice sharp. "Caleb, this isn't funny. Call me back." Even Lila sent a message. "Is this about the barbecue? Let's talk." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the family group chat, the one I'd started years ago for my grandpa's memorial, the one they barely used anymore. I still had admin access. I changed the name to Missed the Memo and removed every member one by one. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, just like me. But it wasn't the end. There was something bigger coming, something they'd never expect because they'd never really seen me at all. I woke up the morning after I killed the family group chat and my phone was still blowing up. Missed calls from Jenna, a voicemail from Marcus yelling about responsibility, even a text from my dad. "Caleb, call your mother. She's upset." I didn't reply. I made coffee, sat on my balcony, and let the quiet sink in. For years, I'd been the one chasing, apologizing, smoothing things over. Now I was done. But pulling the plug on the money was just the start. There was something bigger tying me to them, something they all loved, but never earned the family cabin. The cabin's been in our family forever, a little cedar place on Lakewood Pines. My grandparents built it, then passed it to my mom and her sister, my Aunt Nora. When Nora died, her share went to Marcus, her son. A few years back, when Mom hit a rough patch, I bought out her half to keep it from foreclosure. Legally, I own 50% Marcus, the other half, but nobody acts like it. They call it Grandma's cabin, like it's still hers, and treat it like a free Airbnb. Summer weekends. Thanksgivings, random getaways, they'd pile in grill steaks, blast music, leave dishes in the sink. I never minded. I paid for the new roof, the Wi-Fi, even the dock repair last year, all quiet, no credit needed. I loved that place too, but I hadn't been invited in years. They'd post photos, campfires, Ava splashing in the lake, and I'd see them later like a stranger scrolling Instagram. After the barbecue, I saw it clearly. The cabin wasn't a family heirloom to them. It was a perk, and I was the idiot bankrolling it. No more. I decided to take it back, not to hurt them, but to stop letting them walk over me. I called my lawyer, Sarah, who'd handled my rental properties. "There's a clause in the deed," she said, after digging through the paperwork. "Co-owners can restrict access if there's a dispute. You'd need to file a notice, but it's airtight." Marcus hadn't paid a dime for maintenance in years, so I had leverage. I told her to draft it. The cabin would stay mine, but their free ride was over. I timed it for Labor Day weekend, the big annual trip. Every year, the whole family, Jenna, Marcus, mom, dad, cousins, kids, would swarm the cabin for 3 days. Barbecues, late-night card games, Ava and her cousins cannonballing off the dock. I used to love it, but the last 2 years I wasn't invited. "It's a small group this time," Jenna would say, then I'd see 20 people in Marcus's stories. This year, I didn't need an invite. I had a key. Friday morning, I drove up alone. The lake was glassy, the pines whispering in the breeze. I unlocked the cabin, dropped my bag, and parked my SUV across the driveway, blocking it. Then I waited. Around 1 p.m., I heard gravel crunch. 3 cars pulled up Jenna with Ava Marcus with his wife and kids and my parents. They were laughing, unloading coolers until they saw me on the porch, coffee in hand. Caleb Marcus said, squinting, "What are you doing here?" "It's Labor Day," I said, leaning back. "Thought I'd use my cabin." Jenna's face tightened. "Your cabin. We're here all weekend. I told Mom she's got the big room." "That's a problem," I said, not harsh, just steady. "The cabin's under co-owner review. You'd know if you checked your mail." Marcus blinked. "What mail?" Jenna stepped forward, arms crossed. "Caleb, don't start. We've been coming here forever. You can't just show up and play landlord." I held her gaze. "It's not about one weekend, Jenna. It's about years of you all acting like I don't exist. This place is half mine, and I'm done letting you treat it like a free hotel." Mom walked up, her voice soft. "Caleb, honey, we didn't mean to leave you out. Things just happen. Let's talk, okay?" I almost wavered. Her eyes were pleading, the same ones that used to guilt me into staying quiet. But then I remembered the barbecue, her silence when Jenna snapped at me, the years of things just happen while I stood on the sidelines. "We're past talking," I said. "You want to use the cabin. We sign a new agreement. Split costs, rotate weekends, or we sell." "Sell." Marcus laughed, but it was nervous. "You'd ruin everything over what getting your feelings hurt." "You ruined the everything part," I said. "I'm just setting boundaries." They tried everything, yelling, begging, guilt. Jenna called me petty. Marcus threatened to call a lawyer. Mom teared up, saying, "This isn't you, Caleb." But it was. It was the me they'd ignored, the me who'd finally had enough. I showed them the legal notice Sarah sent my name clear as day on the deed. They had no ground to stand on. Marcus hadn't paid taxes or upkeep. I had receipts for everything. After an hour, they packed up. Jenna shot me a look like I'd burned the cabin down. "You're breaking Ava's heart," she hissed, buckling her daughter into the car. Ava waved at me, confused, and my chest tightened. I waved back, forcing a smile. They drove off, tires spitting gravel. I stood there until the dust settled, then went inside. The cabin smelled like cedar and old summers. I opened a beer, sat by the lake, and watched the water ripple. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for an invite. I was home, but I wasn't done. That night, I started writing a letter not to explain, but to end things for good. It would go out with something bigger, something they'd feel for years. The cabin was just the beginning. The morning after I claimed the cabin, I woke to sunlight streaming through the pines, the lake sparkling like it was in on my secret. I brewed coffee, walked the dock, and let the stillness wrap around me. No cousins shouting, no kids splashing, just quiet. My phone had been buzzing since last night, texts from Jenna, a rant from Marcus, even a shaky voicemail from Mom. "Caleb, please, let's fix this." I didn't listen to the rest. I was done with their noise. Yesterday was a line drawn. Today, I'd make it permanent. Back in the cabin, I sat at the old oak table where Grandma used to deal cards. My laptop was open, but I grabbed a notepad instead. I needed to write something real, something they couldn't ignore. Not a text or an email, a letter handwritten, the kind you can't delete. I'd been drafting it in my head since the barbecue, sharpening every word. It wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. I wanted them to see what they'd done, not just to me, but to the idea of family. The letter took hours. I wrote, scratched out, rewrote. I didn't want to sound bitter, just clear. Here's what I ended up with. To my family, you've made me a stranger in my own life. Not with fights or ultimatums, but with silence. Forgotten invites, group chats. I wasn't in photos where I'm erased. I was the one who showed up, helped out, gave, without asking. But you took it for granted like I was a guest who overstayed. The barbecue wasn't the first cut, just the deepest. Jenna, your missed the memo wasn't a slip, it was a truth you all lived. I'm not here to beg for a seat anymore. I'm done hoping you'll see me. The cabin, the money, the favors, they're gone because I'm done being your ATM. I'm not angry, I'm free. Live your lives, but don't expect me to fund them. Caleb. I read it twice, folded it, and slipped it into an envelope. But the letter wasn't the only thing I was sending. I called Sarah, my lawyer, and told her to finalize the cabin paperwork. I wasn't just restricting access, I was selling my half. I'd found a buyer weeks ago, a quiet couple in their 60s who wanted a retreat, no fuss. They'd agreed to my terms, a small gate on the property line, just enough to keep uninvited guests out. Marcus's name was on the deed, but he hadn't paid taxes or upkeep in years. My LLC had covered it all so legally I could force the sale. Sarah sent the notice to Marcus that morning. He'd have 30 days to match the offer or lose his share. I drove to town, dropped the letter and sale documents at the post office, and felt lighter than I had in years. Back at the cabin, I packed my bag. Labor Day weekend wasn't over, but I didn't need to stay. The point was made. I locked up, left the key on the table, and drove home. By Monday, the storm hit. My phone lit up with voicemails. Jenna's was first, her voice sharp. Selling the cabin. Are you serious, Caleb? That's Ava's favorite place. Marcus left 3 messages each, angrier than the last. You can't do this. I'll fight it. You're not taking what's mine. Mom's was quieter, almost broken. Caleb, this is our history. Why are you tearing it apart? I didn't answer. They'd gotten the letter, the notice, the message. Now they had to sit with it. Tuesday. I went back to work designing a website for a local bakery. My inbox was flooded, cousins, aunts, even a family friend I hadn't seen in a decade, all begging me to reconsider. Marcus sent a legal threat, but Sarah laughed when I forwarded it. He's got nothing, she said. You've got every receipt. I kept quiet, let the chaos unfold. Then late that night, I got a text from Ava. It was a photo of her unicorn sketch from her birthday with a note. Uncle Caleb, I miss you. Why's everyone mad? My throat tightened. She was 9, caught in their mess. I texted back, love the unicorn kiddo. I'm okay, miss you too. I didn't say more. Jenna would see it, and I wasn't playing her games. The next day, I met my friend Sam for coffee. He's not family, but he's closer than most of them ever were. I told him everything, the barbecue, the cabin, the letter. He whistled. Man, that's bold. You sure you're good? I nodded. It's not about hurting them. It's about stopping the hurt they caused. He got it. Sam's the kind of guy who listens, not judges. Talking to him made me realize something. I wasn't just cutting ties. I was building something new, a life where I wasn't invisible. But the family wasn't done. A week later, Marcus showed up at my apartment unannounced. He stood in my doorway, fists clenched, face red. You think you can erase us? That cabin's my kid's legacy. I stayed calm. It was mine too, Marcus. You forgot that when you forgot me. He ranted, but I didn't budge. Eventually, he stormed off, muttering about lawyers. I shut the door and felt nothing. Not anger, not guilt, just certainty. The sale was moving forward. The buyers were ready, the gate was planned. But I had one more move, something small but sharp, to make sure they understood. It wasn't about the cabin or the money anymore. It was about respect, or the lack of it. Marcus's visit left a dent in my calm, but not for long. I stood in my kitchen after he stormed out, sipping coffee, replaying his words. You're erasing us. Funny how he thought I was the one erasing when they'd spent years wiping me from their lives. The cabin sale was moving fast, my buyers had signed, and the gate was going up next week. My letter had landed like a grenade, and the family was scrambling. But I wasn't done. There was one last thread to cut, something to make them see I wasn't just walking away, I was choosing myself. I'd been funding more than the cabin. For years, I'd quietly paid for things they never questioned. Jenna's website hosting for her candle business. Marcus's gym membership, which he bragged about but never paid for. Even Lila's community garden project, which she loved posting about. I'd set up those payments through my LLC small automatic transfers they assumed were grants or discounts. Nobody asked because nobody cared. I called my accountant Tara and told her to pull everything. Send notices, I said. Make it clear the funds are done. She didn't ask why, just got it done. By the next day, cancellation emails went out. I pictured Jenna opening hers confused, then furious. Good. Let them feel the shift. The backlash hit fast. Jenna called voice like ice. Caleb, my site's down. The host says the payment bounced. Fix it. I leaned back in my chair. It's not my job to fix Jenna. You've got the notice. She sputtered. You're punishing us for one stupid barbecue. I laughed, not mean, just tired. It was never one barbecue. You know that. She hung up. Marcus texted next, real mature, cutting my gym. You're pathetic. I didn't reply. Lila sent a long email, all guilt Caleb, the garden's at risk. Think of the kids who love it. I archived it. They weren't used to me saying no, and it showed. Then Mom showed up. It was a Thursday evening, and I was cooking pasta when the doorbell rang. She stood there, gray hair, loose eyes, red. Can I come in? She asked. I nodded, stepping aside. She sat on my couch, clutching her purse like a shield. Caleb, you're breaking us apart, she said. Voice soft but heavy. The cabin, the money, now this letter. Why I sat across from her calm. Mom, I didn't break anything. You all did every time you left me out, laughed it off, or let Jenna snap at me like I was nothing. I'm done carrying you while you forget me. She teared up. We didn't mean it. I love you. I believed her, but love wasn't enough. You let it happen, I said. Years of it. I'm not your safety net anymore. She stayed for an hour trying to explain to guilt to fix. I listened, but didn't bend. When she left, she hugged me and I let her, but it felt like goodbye. Not forever, maybe, but for now. I needed space to build something new, not patch their cracks. The cabin sale closed that week. The buyers, Tom and Elaine, sent me a photo of the new gate, simple wooden locked. Marcus couldn't match the offer. His credit was a mess and he hadn't paid taxes in years. Sarah, my lawyer, handled the paperwork. The family tried to fight it, but the deed was clear my half was mine to sell. They got nothing. I saw Marcus's post on Instagram, a blurry lake photo captioned, "Lost something special today." No mention of me, of course, just victim vibes. I swiped past it. Work kept me grounded. I landed a big contract redesigning a local brewery's site, and my team was killing it. I started hosting game nights with Sam and a few others' friends who didn't make me beg for a seat. We'd play cards, laugh, eat tacos. It wasn't family, but it was real. One night, Sam asked, "You regret any of it?" The cabin, the letter. I thought about it. No, I said. I regret waiting so long. He nodded like he got it. That was enough. But there was one more twist. My company ran a mentorship program teaching coding to locals looking for a fresh start. Guess who applied? Marcus. His resume landed on my desk, all polished, no clue I'd see it. He'd listed family business experience, probably thinking the cabin counted. I stared at it, then grabbed a Post-it. I wrote 6 words. Maybe you missed the memo too. I stapled it to the rejection letter and sent it back. Petty maybe. But it felt right. Ava's text came a few days later. Another photo, this time a drawing of me and her by the lake. I don't care what Mom says, she wrote. You're my favorite. My heart cracked, not from pain, but from something softer. I sent her a quick video. That's the best drawing ever, kiddo. You're my favorite too. I knew Jenna would flip, but Ava deserved better than their silence. The family went quiet after that. No more calls, no texts. It was eerie, like they'd finally taken the hint. But I wasn't naive. They'd try again, maybe with guilt, maybe with anger. I was ready. The cabin was gone, the money was cut, and I was building a life where I wasn't a ghost. But something told me one last reckoning was coming. The silence from my family after Marcus's rejection letter was louder than their yelling ever was. No more angry texts, no voicemails, just nothing. It was like they'd finally heard me or given up. I didn't trust it. Years of being pushed out taught me their quiet wasn't peace. It was a pause, a regroup. But for the first time, I wasn't waiting for their next move. I was living. Work was my anchor. The brewery project wrapped, and the client loved it so much they recommended me to 2 others. My inbox was full, but not with family drama actual opportunities. I started mentoring a kid in our coding program, 19, fresh out of high school, all nerves and big dreams. He reminded me of myself minus the family baggage. Helping him debug his first app felt better than any favor I'd ever done for Jenna or Marcus. It was honest work, no strings. Nights were for my new crew. Sam and a few others came over weekly now, crowding my living room with pizza boxes and bad puns. We'd play board games or just talk the kind of talking where nobody's keeping score. One night, Sam raised a beer to Caleb, who finally stopped playing doormat. Everyone laughed, but I felt it a pride I hadn't known I could have. I was building something real, not chasing ghosts. But ghosts don't stay gone. A week before Thanksgiving, I got a knock at my door. It was Dad standing there in a worn jacket, hands stuffed in his pockets. He looked smaller than I remembered, his beard, grayer eyes tired. "Caleb," he said. "Can we talk?" I let him in, poured us coffee, and sat at my kitchen table. He didn't touch his mug, just stared at it. "Your mom's not okay," he started. "She hasn't been sleeping." The cabin sale hit her hard. I nodded, waiting. He went on. "Jenna's struggling too. Her business is tanking without your help. Marcus, he's embarrassed about the mentorship thing." I sipped my coffee. "Sounds like their learning actions have consequences." Dad flinched, but I didn't soften. They didn't care when I was hurting Dad. Why should I fix their mess now? He leaned forward, voice low. "I know we screwed up. I saw it happening, Jenna's snipes, Marcus's ego, the way we let you slip through the cracks. I should have said something. I didn't. That's on me." His eyes met mine, raw, no excuses. "I read your letter. It gutted me. You're right, we treated you like you didn't matter." "I'm sorry, Caleb. I'm here because I don't want to lose you." I didn't expect that. Not the apology, not the weight in his voice. Part of me wanted to hug him to say it was okay, but it wasn't. "I believe you're sorry," I said. "But sorry doesn't undo years of being invisible. I'm not coming back to the way things were. If you want me in your life, it's on my terms now." He nodded slow, like he was chewing on it. "Fair," he said. "What does that look like?" I didn't have a full answer yet, but I knew one thing. It starts with respect. No more guilt trips, no more fix it, Caleb. I'm not your backup plan. He didn't argue. We talked a bit longer, not about the family, just small stuff, his garden, my latest project. When he left, he hugged me quick but tight. "I'll call," he said. I didn't hold my breath, but I hoped. Thanksgiving came, and I didn't go to Mom's. Their big dinner with her lumpy mashed potatoes and Dad's overcooked turkey used to be my favorite. Even when they stuck me at the kids' table, I'd show up, smile, pass the gravy. Not this year. I hosted my own, just Sam, his girlfriend, and another friend from work. We ordered takeout, watched bad sci-fi movies, laughed until my sides hurt. It wasn't traditional, but it was mine. A few days later, a letter came. Mom's handwriting shaky on the envelope. I set it on my counter unopened for 2 days. When I finally read it, it was short. "Caleb, I failed you. I let Jenna and Marcus push you away, and I didn't stop it. I miss you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm here if you ever want to talk. Love, Mom." I folded it, put it in a drawer. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I wasn't ready to call her. Maybe I never would be. Then Ava messaged again. A video this time, her gap-toothed grin filling the screen. "Uncle Caleb, I made you a Christmas card. Mom's mad, but I don't care. Can I send it?" Behind her, I heard Jenna yell, "Ava, turn that off." The video cut. My chest ached, not for me, but for her. She was stuck in their cycle, and it wasn't her fault. I sent a quick text. Can't wait to see that card, kiddo. You're the best. I didn't mention Jenna. Ava deserved her own connection to me, free of their drama. The quiet stretched into December. No more family outreach, no apologies or attacks. It felt like freedom, but it came with a shadow. Late at night, I'd wonder if I'd gone too far. Should I have kept the cabin? Answered Mom's letter. But then I'd remember the barbecue. Jenna's smirk, the years of standing on the outside. I didn't owe them my peace. I was done carrying their weight. Something was brewing, though. A small clue came in an email from Sarah, my lawyer. Marcus had filed a last-ditch claim on the cabin sale, some nonsense about family rights. It wouldn't hold up, but it meant they weren't done fighting. I wasn't worried. I had one final card to play, and it would change everything. Marcus's claim on the cabin sale was a desperate swing, and it missed. Sarah, my lawyer, called me a week into December. It's dead, she said. He tried arguing family legacy, but the judge tossed it. You paid for everything, taxes, repairs, all of it. He had no case. I thanked her, hung up, and felt a weight lift. The cabin was gone, my half now, Tom and Elaine's, the gate up, the past locked out. Marcus's fight was the family's last gasp, and it failed. I was free. Freedom didn't feel like I expected. It wasn't loud or triumphant, just steady like the hum of a well-built engine. I'd spent years carrying my family's baggage, Jenna's snark, Marcus's entitlement, Mom's silence. Cutting them off wasn't revenge, it was survival. But late at night, doubts crept in. Had I burned too much? Could I have fixed things instead? Then I'd remember Ava's video, her grin fighting through their drama, and I knew I didn't start this fire, but I wasn't going to keep getting burned. Christmas was quiet. No family invites, no group texts about Mom's holiday ham. I didn't miss it. I flew to Portland, crashed with Sam's family, and spent a week hiking rainy trails and eating too much pie. They treated me like I belonged, no side eyes or forgotten invites. On Christmas Eve, I got a package from Ava, a handmade card covered in glitter, and a wonky drawing of us fishing. Inside, she'd written, "You're my hero, Uncle Caleb." My eyes stung. I taped it to my fridge when I got home. Jenna hadn't stopped her, which was something. I sent Ava a new sketchbook and a note. "Keep drawing, kiddo. You're my hero, too." I kept it short, no jab at Jenna. Ava was her own person, and I'd be there for her no matter what. January brought clarity. Work was booming, 2 new clients plus a speaking gig at a local tech conference. Mentoring my coding student Jay kept me grounded. He'd built his first website, a clunky but proud portfolio. "You think I can do this for real?" he asked. "You already are," I told him. Helping him felt like planting something new, not fixing someone else's mess. My game nights with Sam and the crew grew louder, messier better. I bought a new place, a small house with a porch and a fireplace. I'd grill burgers, host poker nights, laugh until midnight. This was my family now, chosen, not owed. Then Dad called. It was a cold February morning, my breath fogging as I walked to my car. "Caleb," he said, voice rough. "I need to see you." We met at a diner, just us, no ambush. He looked worn, like the last year had aged him a decade. "Jenna's moving in with us," he said. "Her business folded." "Marcus is, well, he's Marcus. Your mom's trying, but she's fragile." I nodded, waiting. He leaned in. "I'm not here to guilt you. I just want you to know I meant what I said. We failed you. I failed you. If you're done with us, I get it. But I'm not done trying." I studied him. No defensiveness, no excuses, just a man owning his mistakes. "I'm not done," I said slowly. "But it's different now. No more games, no more me, bending to keep the peace. You want me in your life, you meet me halfway." He nodded, eyes wet. "Deal." We didn't hug, but we shook hands firm like a contract. It wasn't a full reset, but it was a start. I didn't know if Mom or Jenna would follow, and I didn't care. I'd set my terms. Mom's letter still sat in my drawer. I read it again one night, her words heavy but honest. I didn't write back, but I didn't throw it out either. Forgiveness wasn't a switch I could flip. It would come or it wouldn't. Jenna stayed silent, and Marcus was a ghost, probably licking his wounds. I didn't check their social media anymore. Their lives weren't my job. My final move came in March. I'd been holding on to one last piece of the past, a savings fund I'd set up for Ava's art classes years ago. It wasn't much, but it was mine to give. I transferred it to a trust accessible when she turned 18 with a letter Ava. You're a star. This is for your dreams, art school. Whatever you choose, I'll always be in your corner. Love, Uncle Caleb. I sent a copy to Jenna, not to gloat, but to be clear this was for Ava, not her. I didn't expect a reply, and I didn't get one. That was fine. It was my last gift given on my terms. Spring hit, and I felt new. I took a solo trip to Banff, hiked mountains, sat by turquoise lakes. I didn't post about it, didn't need to. I was living for me. Back home, I'd sip coffee on my porch, watch the sunrise, and feel something I hadn't in years enough. I wasn't invisible anymore, not to my friends, not to myself. The family I'd lost had been a shadow. The one I'd built was real. Looking back, it wasn't about the cabin or the money. It was about refusing to be a footnote in my own story. I didn't need their approval, their invites, their love. I had mine. And if Ava or Dad or even Mom wanted to rebuild, I'd be here not as a doormat, but as Caleb, whole, unbroken home. Story 2. My mother warned me not to attend my sister's wedding when I was 32. Don't even consider attending the wedding, she said. I don't want any pictures to be ruined by your face. No, perhaps we ought to speak. Alternatively, let's figure out how to make this work. Or even a passive-aggressive one. Simply put, banishment. By then it wasn't even startling. Simply numb. Similar to touching eyes for too long and forgetting it should hurt. My sister Megan texted me for words that evening. Perhaps you would be worth inviting if you weren't so pitiful. No emoticons. After that, there should be no punctuation. As if she had considered it. Made sure it landed sharply after editing it. I locked my phone and put it face down after staring at the screen for a while. I refrained from crying. I refrained from screaming. I didn't sigh at all. I simply reclined on my old beige couch and gazed at the popcorn ceiling as if it were the first to blink. I'll go back a little. By the way, my name is Alex. In the little village where I grew up, reputation was more important than actuality. You made a public smile, wept in privacy. He covered every rift in the family with accomplishments like wallpaper. The golden kid was my sister Megan, who was 4 years younger than me. Blonde, vivacious, and capable of failing upward in some way. Left college early. She is going in her own direction. Was dismissed in 2 years from 3 separate jobs. Her confidence terrified her managers. Her engagement to Ryan, who happens to be the type of man who refers to wine as grape juice for grown-ups. My mother pretended that Megan was a Nobel laureate. Me, I live alone, work there, pay my bills on time, have no criminal history, and always bring a cover dish to family get-togethers. I've never been a photogenic person, though. Never been motivating. I've never been the delusion they created about Megan. Even the background noise in the family album, which I was, seems to have become too loud for them. Being the invisible sibling has the drawback that no one pays attention to you when you're actually working. Like the ideal location for Megan and Ryan's wedding. Yes, I put down the deposit as a surprise present 6 months ago when I was still trying to persuade myself that we could be a genuine family, so the booking was under my name. The location, a lakeside house with ivy-covered arches and swans, peacocks, or some other foolish bird that poops on everything, had been Megan's dream since she was 17. I reasoned that perhaps just possibly assisting her in realizing her dream would have some significance. I made the whole $3,000 deposit payment. If canceled within 30 days, the charge is non-refundable. She didn't even express gratitude, just informed us. And it was successful. She boasted to her fans that she had brought the ideal wedding location into her life. I remained silent because I had spent the most of my life thinking that love was silent, that it didn't require praise or acknowledgement, and that if I simply continued coming up, someone would ultimately notice. I was disinvited instead. Just a directive with no context or subtleties. Mom squinted at me as if I had uttered something in a foreign language when I told her it hurt. "This is Megan's day," she declared, as if it clarified everything. "In any case, you've never been close. She also wants no negative vibes. The woman who once yelled at a waitress for setting the dressing on the side rather than mixing it in had a lot of energy. Yes, I was the curse, though. I refrained from arguing. I simply gave a nod and departed early. I sat in my apartment and watched the sun set behind the unsightly gray buildings across the street after driving home in quiet. Megan's text message then entered the picture. I believe that's when a piece of me cracked. Not in the shattered glass dramatic fashion of movies. More like when a bone moves just enough to become inoperable, isn't that right? I read her words over and over again, hoping for the apology that never materialized. I didn't even shake my hands. I simply grinned, but it was a weird, hollow smile. I opened my laptop after that. There was a cancellation policy for the location. I had read every clause back when I made the reservation, so I knew it by heart. Within 30 days, cancel, and the deposits are no longer there. Before then, cancel, and you can recover the most of it. Or, for a nominal cost, move the date to another event. I looked at the schedule. 28 days, slightly below the wire. Megan had come very close. She did it every time. The email confirming. Both the contract and the invoice were in my name. It had never been transferred. I never considered doing it. For what reason would they? The background noise was me. That night, I didn't cancel it. A tantrum was not what I wanted. I want cleanliness. I wanted it to have some significance. I watched her Instagram for the following 2 days. It was all around the arena. She may be seen spinning on the pier in videos. With a pop song playing in the background, there are slow-motion pictures of Ryan dramatically dipping her. My mom used heart emojis and hashtags like dream wedding and so blessed in her comments on every image. Ryan shared a photo of the contract folder on social media. My folder titled Locking It In with my signature. Day 3 will be the finest day of our life. I wore my finest shoes and a button-up when I arrived at the location in person. Camille, the coordinator, recognized me right away. Yes, Alex, exactly. Everything is proceeding without a hitch. We sent the draft guest list for approval. I extended a hand. I said quietly, indeed. The plans have been altered. She blinked. Oh. I showed her the documents and explained the policy. Said that the reservation would have to be canceled due to personal reasons. I inquired about the existence of a waiting list. For their anniversary, a couple had been attempting to reserve that day. Renew your vows? Are they interested in it? I inquired. Camille gave them a call. Within 5 minutes, they said yes. The rest she took care of. I didn't request a reimbursement. I didn't give a damn. As if I hadn't just flipped the first domino, I thanked her, signed the release, and stepped outside into the sunshine. I waited after that. Megan said nothing. Not even a warning. Most likely because she believed I lacked the courage to do action. Or worst, she completely forgot about me. She most likely believed Ryan had made the reservation. He didn't. He simply arrived for the tour and snapped selfies. Everyone barks. No documentation. Megan shared a video of herself walking through the location in a white dress and high heels 10 days before the wedding. Final preparation of the caption. I can't believe it will arrive soon. I realized they still hadn't noticed at that point. They hadn't confirmed anything or given the location a call. 5 days out, they were coasting on vibrations. Camille gave me a call. Hello? I wanted to express my gratitude once more for the seamless changeover. The new couple is really appreciative. Even bespoke lighting for the dock are being added. It will appear gorgeous. Out for 3 days. Quiet. Less than 12 hours before the guests were expected to arrive on the eve of the wedding. At last, I received a call. I didn't answer, and it was Mom. She gave another call. By the sixth missed call, then again. At last, I flipped the phone over and gazed at the display. Like a mosquito bite, her name shone there. Tiny, enduring, annoying. I didn't respond. Yelling was not what I wanted. I didn't want phony excuses. Since the only thing I had damaged was their presumption that I would continue taking it indefinitely, I didn't want her to accuse me of wrecking anything. Then a text message rang on my phone. Mom sent an SMS. "What did you do?" "According to the venue, someone else has a reservation there. It was canceled," they stated. "Give me a call immediately." I didn't. I went to the window instead, poured myself a glass of orange juice, and watched the traffic creep by below. The sun was just beginning to set behind the buildings. Everything appeared to be being filmed for a perfume commercial because of that strange golden haze. I sipped and bided my time. Another text message arrived 30 seconds later. "What did you do when Megan texted my wedding was destroyed by you? You're sad, envious, and self-centered." She continued, one paragraph after another. Exclamation points are capitalized. I believe she once threatened to sue me. Most of it was not read by me, simply scrolled slowly, one flick of the thumb at a time. I'm amazed at how quickly they went from disregarding me to elevating me to the center of the world. Ryan eventually gave me a call. When his name appeared, I truly let out a loud, foolish, and panting laugh. I had never received a call from Ryan before, not for a birthday. I helped transport furniture into their first apartment, but it wasn't for a thank you guy. Now, however, he wanted a word now I saw. Have I responded? Obviously not. I want quiet. One of them still has to wriggle, sit on their flawless, costly, flour-coated lie, and discover that they didn't even consider the logistics. They simply believed it would remain handled since I handled it. However, no. The one person who was genuinely keeping things together was expelled when they threw me out of the wedding. Megan said, "Sometimes family betrays you worse than any stranger ever could," as the description for a dark screen she shared on her Instagram story at around 7 p.m. Bring on the violin. Mom gave me another call an hour later, but this time she left a message. The calmness in her voice was a sign that someone was going to lose it. The breath in front of the screen. "Alex, you've gone too far, and I'm not sure what you're doing or what you believe this shows. Megan is getting married. It was her big day. She is inconsolable. You don't want to be known as the resentful, vengeful brother who destroyed something lovely. This is your final chance to make things right. Give the location a call. Put things correctly." I keep the voicemail. Not for legal grounds. Simply because I wanted to recall how fast they could call it a handshake at precisely 9:42 p.m. and twist a knife. The electricity in my building wavered, not from a storm, metaphorical or otherwise, just the age of the city grid. Nevertheless, it seemed strangely ideal, as if the cosmos was gently highlighting my next move. I took a seat, rolled up my shades, and peered out over the city far away, but not far enough. I could see the roof of the arena, a little almost perceptible speck along the lake. Now the swans, peacocks, or whatever else they had leased would be aimlessly roaming the area. They would stack the seats nicely. If the arbor was even up yet, it would be dismantled and elsewhere, most likely in a hotel room with a melting cake and fading flowers. Megan was coming to the realization that a wedding could not even be called off by hashtags and filters. Leaning back, I placed my phone on the armrest and exhaled evenly and slowly. Her wedding had not been wrecked by me. She had done so by acting as though I didn't exist, by using shame and exclusion as weapons, and by ignoring the fact that I was the one who first enabled her delusion. They never inquired about my desires. Never once did they consider include me in addition to what I could provide. And now they were about to discover the true sound of quiet. The big day was set for the next morning. Ritual at sunrise. By the dock, a violinist. A brunch of champagne in hand-painted glasses. I had seen the planning folder, so I was aware of all of this. One of the few occasions Megan came to visit, she left it on my coffee table. She still needed my credit card back then. Someone knocked on my door at 6 in the morning. It wasn't noisy. Just 3 little courteous taps. I knew who it would be before I even opened it. And my mother was there when I did. Sunglasses are already on, and hair is up. She was stuck in that tight little grimace she wore whenever she was 2 seconds away from lying through her teeth, even if it was cold in the morning. Her lips opened, but I raised one finger before she could speak. I said, "Let me guess. I take it you came to apologize." "You need me to repair the harm, not because you mean it." She didn't flinch. She merely muttered, "You have no idea what you've done, Alex." I carefully cocked my head as if I were listening for a distant sound. I then gave a nod. "You're right," I muttered. "I don't get it. Why it took you this long to notice that I was even in the photo is beyond me. How you can spit in someone's face and then be surprised when they quit cleaning up your filth is beyond me. However, I do comprehend this." I take a step back and shut the door softly. It failed to smash. Not necessary. The final was soft, and all I could hear on the other side was quiet. The door remained closed. I didn't lock it for any kind of dramatic effect. I simply stood with my hand on the knob and listened to the corridor's soft breathing. Through the wood, I could still sense her presence like a ghost who hasn't come to terms with her death yet. After a while, her heels clicked away. She backed off down the corridor one cautious step at a time, as if she was waiting for me to call her back. I didn't. I returned to the couch and took a seat. I didn't look at my cell, didn't prepare coffee, merely sat. The city was beginning to awaken. Birds' horns, the clang of trash cans every now and then. It still seemed like midnight up here, though. I had anticipated feeling something. Shame, wind, anxiety maybe. Instead, though, I sensed space. As if someone had finally told me, you can put that down right after I had been lugging a sack of bricks for years. Megan didn't get back to me all morning. No apologies, no threats, no messages. However, her fiancé Ryan decided to go into full panic mode at about 11:45 a.m. In a lengthy, frenzied Instagram story, he began by addressing our friends and family before concluding that we were taken by surprise. The middle section was a confused mix of passive-aggressive complaining brought on by unanticipated events betrayed by someone we trusted. Venues aren't important in real love. Fake humility was literally oozing from it. People would forget, for example, if he played enough depressing music and made enough cutesy faces. "I look like the IT guy from a cheap comedy," he once said. The comments came pouring in, of course. "What happened? OMG, I'm sending this heart-shaped emoji. Hold on. Your brother helped reserve the location, isn't he?" Sipping the same glass of juice that I hadn't finished the previous evening, I watched it all unfold from the comfort of my couch. I was almost expecting one of them to simply arrive with a camera crew and make this into a depressing YouTube video by this point. Family canceled us, but I still said I do. Bring on the tears. The commercialization begins. By the middle of the afternoon, I began receiving messages from relatives in my extended family that I hadn't spoken to since high school. One Christmas, my uncle forgot my name. They were all now somewhat worried. "Hey dude, saw the post. Is everything all right? Your mother mentioned that you called off Megan's wedding. Is that accurate? I just wanted to share what transpired. I hope that can be resolved between you two. Family matters. Correct family. The same relatives that didn't give me a call on my birthday. Perhaps the same family who sent an RSVP but failed to show up for my graduation celebration. They were now concerned. I was worth the work now. I didn't immediately delete one mail, but I disregarded all the others. Aunt Doreen sent it. Not a favorite with the crowd. She had always been a bit too direct, a bit too tanned, and a bit too fixated with her Pomeranians, to be honest. But that's what her message said. Heard the news I've been waiting for years for you to quit being the doormat for the family. Are you okay? I looked at it for a while. Finally, I said, yeah, I believe I am. The wedding did go place that evening. In a way. Not with the catered champagne-soaked fantasy they promised their pals not at the lake, and certainly not with the swans. No. At our grandparents' place, they hurriedly put together a backyard setup that would have worked well if it hadn't rained a lot. Like a 15-second thunderclap. Hard. Megan got her dress wet. The canopy that was leased fell apart. Midway through the song, the temporary DJ setup failed. A picture is now doing the rounds on Facebook. Poorly light and blurry. Megan, carrying a flower that appears to have been retrieved from a highway ditch, attempts to grin through clenched teeth with half of her mascara pouring down her face. The greatest thing, though, the entire event was live broadcast by Ryan's cousin. Additionally, you can hear Megan whisper "hot mic" and all sometime in the middle of the video. If he doesn't correct this, I promise God that I will see to it that he dies. She didn't specify which man she was referring to, although it may have been Ryan. That malice in her voice didn't care that it may have been me. The call resumed a few days later, this time less irate and more calculated. Mom did it first. Pretending nothing had occurred, she left a voicemail. "Hello, my love. I hope all is well with you. I was just curious if you could assist me with the printer this week. It's jammed again, I believe." Megan then attempted a text. Just one word. "Really?" Ryan reached out and pretended to be the larger man when I didn't respond. His message was a masterwork of diplomatic ambivalence. "See, I understand. You suffered harm." They said something. "However, one bad day shouldn't cause a family to go to war. Let's get together. Discuss it. Make things right." I let him read. Finally, Megan sent me the text that caused me to stop. "What is your ultimate goal here? You received your retribution. Are you content now?" For a moment, I was unsure about how to respond, so I looked at that one for longer than I had anticipated. Was I content? Was I feeling better? It wasn't the same as in the films. There was no music, no big revelation. Simply be silent. It's the stillness that makes you realize you don't know anyone. Still, it was an explanation. I knew in part that this was not the end. Megan doesn't simply lose. She changes her brand. And I suspected that she was going to try something more serious than an apology, or worse, something that resembled one. After that last SMS, she didn't message for a few days. Mom won't call any longer. Ryan didn't offer any phony olive branches. Nothing. Like the quiet before a second storm, the quietness was unsettling. I knew Megan too well to believe she was finished, but this time I wasn't sure which way the storm would be coming from. It was never a tranquil ending for Megan. She would attempt a funeral if a wedding didn't work out. She would also throw her own pity party and send RSVP cards to everyone she believed might be used as a weapon if there wasn't one already. The following effort was made on a Thursday afternoon. I received an email message while working diligently on coding performing diagnostics for internal server problems at a mid-sized business. "We're sorry" was written in the subject line. "Let's have a conversation." Megan sent it. When she made it just for the wedding, she sent it using her new email account. Ryan and Megan's "Forever Begins Now" was still the corny slogan at the bottom of the signature. Curiosity is a persistent itch, yet I nearly didn't open it. It was a lengthy, meticulously composed note, or at least meticulously written. Every line had a hint of performance. She began by expressing how difficult things have been, how our emotions overcame us, and how nobody is flawless. Not me at all. She then went into guilt-tripping mode, writing about how much she wanted things had gone differently and how upset she was that I missed her special day. I really choked on my coffee during one section. "In our family, you've always been the one who fixes things. Perhaps that's why breaking something instead stung so much." This was her final statement. "Let's act like grown-ups. Join us for supper. Mom, you and I alone. No accusations, no drama. Simply speak. We remain family." I spent a good 5 minutes sitting back and looking at the message. It served as a test. Not a true apology, just a quick check to see whether I was still reachable, still not strong enough to fold. She didn't apologize. I called off the event. She regretted that it had worked. I apologize for no longer being helpful. This has nothing to do with repairing the relationship. The goal was to regain authority. I didn't reply, though, because I was done playing their games. Rather, I opened a manuscript that I had begun the day after the wedding when I had no intention of submitting it, but suddenly felt like the ideal time. It went to all of the vendors Megan and Ryan had reserved through my contacts or recommendations, including the caterer, the DJ, the florist, the photo booth firm, and even the officiant whom I knew from my time in college. I gave a quick explanation of the circumstances. I requested them to take my name off of any communication and informed them that I was no longer involved with anything related to Megan's event planning company since, yes, she was now attempting to turn the disastrous wedding into the launch of a lifestyle brand. I then went one step farther. I wrote everything out in a public Facebook post that was still viewed by the majority of our family, nor with resentment nor with insults or animosity, only the facts. Regarding the wedding and the circumstances involving Megan and Mom, many of you have contacted me. Thank you for being concerned about transparency. The venue was first reserved and paid for by myself. When I was informed that I was not invited to the wedding, not just not welcomed, but specifically prohibited, my reservation was canceled. Nothing was ruined by me. I just took myself out of something that I was no longer involved in. Feel free to ask any queries you may have. I will no longer remain silent. It blew up. People who said they didn't know or couldn't believe Megan would say that made up half of the responses. Some of the elder relatives posted comments like, "family complicated," and remained neutral. I hope it goes well. However, the younger cousins came together. "Dude, I knew something was off," one of them DM'd me. "She has mistreated you for years. You have my respect for being the first person in my life to stand up." The shadow in the room wasn't me. They were observing me. Naturally, Megan lost it. She shared a 5-slide Instagram story with cursive lettering and pastel backdrops. She discussed boundaries, recovering from betrayal and toxic energy. The passive anger was so thick you could spread it on toast despite the obvious attempt to appear educated. She then stopped following me, blocked me. It was amusing given that I hadn't initially followed her. This is when it becomes truly fulfilling, though. 2 months or so later, Ryan called me. The number was practically unrecognizable to me. I responded out of habit. "Alex." His voice sounded fragile, like if he hadn't slept. "Can we chat, please?" I said nothing. I only gaze. I am aware that we didn't get off to a fantastic start. We're amazed. "All right, that was awful, but I had a question for you." "No, I didn't say." I simply waited. He let out a sigh. "Do you know of a reputable divorce attorney that caught my eye? Megan's business endeavor, the wedding brand she started following the catastrophe, apparently failed." Heart. She had placed an enormous order for personalized planners mugs and tote bags with motivational quotes, but she had never paid the fulfillment provider. Then came lawsuits. People were no longer buying into her attempt to crowdsource money under the guise of healing from trauma. There were gaps in her tale. Her campaign was a failure. Ryan, on the other hand, was sick of being the Instagram prop. He replied in a hushed voice, "She's not who I thought she was." "Man, she's wearing you out. I feel as like I've been living in the influencer dream of someone else." I didn't claim to have told you. I simply named him, a lawyer I had faith in. I then hung up after wishing him luck. In the months that followed, it became calmer in my life. Better. The excursion I had been putting off eventually happened. Traveled to Ireland via air, observed the cliffs. I didn't check my phone once while eating much too many potatoes. I signed the contract for a new apartment with more light, more room, and no memories when I returned. I stopped responding to my mother's texts. I updated my phone number. Give up on the notion that they will ever comprehend me. Then one day, a crazy event occurred. A letter arrived in the mail, written by hand, no address for return. There was a card inside with 3 large type sentences, and an image of a cat wearing sunglasses. You were correct. No explanation, no signature. However, Megan's handwriting seemed familiar to me. I took a seat, looked at it for a while, and then threw it in a drawer. It no longer hurt, but not because I had to maintain it. It was sufficient that she had finally uttered something accurate. I no longer needed retribution. I had already prevailed. Story 3. It's said that you discover who truly matters when you're at your lowest. I learned this while lying in a hospital bed and looking at the tiles in the ceiling, keeping track of the seconds that pass between each cardiac monitor sound. I'm waiting for someone to arrive. Daniel is my name. I've been my family's unofficial financial pillar for the past 6 years, and I'm 34 years old. I paid the rent, groceries, me, my younger brothers, Carlos. I signed a co-signed document. I didn't voice any complaints, not once. Not when I was required to work overtime. Not when maintaining the lights in their home required me to forgo my own vacations. I did it because I believed it was the role of family. Assist one another. It all began with my dad's untimely death. At the age of 28, I was doing well for myself while working at a medium company. Jason, my younger brother, was 22 years old and still figuring himself out, which mostly meant living off our mother and bouncing between unsuccessful business ventures. Elaine, my mother, was complex. Sharp-witted, strong-willed, and utterly certain that the world owed her something following the death of her father. She firmly believed that I had a duty to support the family because I was the one who was successful. I first agreed. I assumed it would only last until we all regained our footing. However, temporary became permanent, very quickly. Years passed after just a few months of paying the rent. Initially, it was assisting with the groceries. The phone bill follows. Then, in order to begin driving for Uber, Jason required a short-term loan for a car. That vehicle never carried anyone. While Jason began a 4-episode podcast, it sat on their garage. Mom didn't say thank you once during it all. It always was. Well, this is what families do, or if your father were present. Daniel. And foolishly, I continued to do it, even after I became aware of my own savings. Thinning. I kept telling myself that it was worth it, that someday they would support me if I needed it, even though I wanted to move into a larger home but couldn't justify it given how much I was spending every month to cover their life. That the sacrifice would all be worthwhile. Then I became ill. It began modestly. Exhaustion. I had a strange soreness in my right side that persisted. It seemed insignificant to me. It worsened, perhaps due to stress, nausea, and a sharp stabbing ache. After nearly passing out in the office restroom, I eventually went to the hospital. An appendix burst. I was sent to emergency surgery. My employer had left me a message on my phone when I woke up exhausted, painful, and hardly able to move. Nor my brother, nor my mom. The individuals I'd been helping for years didn't miss a single call. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't help but feel the weight of that quiet. On the second day, I spent 2 nights in the hospital. At last, I gave my mother a call. Hello. My throat was dry from the anesthetic as I croaked. I recently had surgery. I need some assistance going home. She interrupted me, saying that she might simply need someone to pick up my medication. I'm sorry you're feeling under the weather, Daniel, but you're an adult. We don't have any responsibility for you. I can't drop everything to be your chauffeur. Jason is already under enough stress. All I did was look at the wall. The phone was still in my ear. I was at a loss for words. I briefly questioned if I was dreaming or whether the anesthetic had worn off. Furthermore, this was really a strange delusion. However, she continued. Perhaps you won't overwork yourself the next time. You know you wouldn't have to rely on us in this way if you had a wife or someone else in your life. I don't want to come out as judgmental, but everyone has their own issues. Before I could reply, she hung up. I refrained from crying. I desired to. However, all I experienced was a profound, numbing coldness that settled into my chest as if someone had lit a fire to everything I believed to be true about family and just left smoke behind. In the end, the nurse called a cab for me. I carried a drugstore bag in one hand as I hobbled inside my apartment, still dizzy and aching. I spent an hour sitting on my couch looking into space, feeling as though something inside of me was breaking. I opened my laptop that evening. I didn't become angry. I refrained from crying. I just got to typing. I launched my banking app and began adding up all of the automatic payments I had previously set up. Rent for their flat food purchased via Instacart utilities, and Jason's auto insurance. On all of them, I hit cancel. I wrote a brief, composed message in our group chat the next morning. I will no longer be providing financial support to anyone other than myself due to my condition. I wish you luck. I didn't immediately receive an answer. In actuality, there was no conversation for 3 whole days. Perhaps they didn't notice it, or perhaps they didn't trust me, I reasoned. Then the texts began. Jason, my friend, came first. Did the landlords claim we were late at the time, or did the rent not go through Mom? I understand that you've been going through a difficult period, but now is not the time to act selfishly. Daniel. Here we're having trouble. I understood what struggle looked like, so hearing that word made my blood boil. While others uploaded photos from wine tastings and went on weekend getaways, I struggled through college working 2 jobs. When I subtly took up a second job last year to keep their heating on over the winter, I had struggled. They hadn't seen any difficulties. Convenience was something they had witnessed. I choose to disregard the texts. Day 4. Jason gave a call. I didn't answer. Day 5. Mom called. Until the screen went dark, I kept my eyes on it. They were outside my apartment building by the 6th day. I reside in a gated condominium community. They continued to stand at the front door despite this, though. Faces contorted in outrage as if I were the one who had harmed them, arms crossed. From my window, I observed. Jason paced and made gestures like a reality show contestant who had just been eliminated, while Mom grabbed a tissue in her palm and dabbed her eyes dramatically. In the call box, they were yelling. I would give in if I pressed each unit number in that manner. There I stood, with one hand still at my side and the painkillers just slightly reducing the ache. I had an odd feeling. Relief. In years, for the first time. I didn't feel bad. No commitment. Just some clarification. The story doesn't end there, though. They stayed. Not 10 minutes later. Not after 30. I saw the sun disappear behind the buildings as the daylight began to wane. Like some depressing pretext for a protest, they remained parked on the curb. After a while, Jason settled down on his car's hood. I started scrolling through his phone, and technically it was my car because my name was still on the lease. Mom paced, most likely writing a dramatic Facebook post about the son she raised leaving her. I switched on the TV and closed the blinds. When they eventually departed, it was nearly midnight. Or perhaps they did not. Perhaps they simply dozed off downstairs in the car. I didn't look. I didn't give a damn. I woke up the following morning to the sound of pounding, not knocking. After dragging myself to the entrance and sifting through the crowd, I saw my mother, her hair unkempt and her eyes red as if she hadn't slept. She must have heard me coming because she yelled, "Open this door, Daniel. We must speak." "No, we don't," I answered, leaning against the wall, still weak after the surgery. Her anger simply increased as a result. "You cannot simply cut us off in this manner. Your family is us. We helped you throughout your entire life." I chuckled. I was unable to resist. It sounded empty and unpleasant. "Do you mean the way you helped me get better after my surgery? Very motivating material." A long pause was followed by the traditional mother's sigh, the one that indicated she was going to attempt guilt. "Daniel, you're aware of how much we've endured. Your sibling is having difficulties. I'm still in mourning for your dad. Your income is more than sufficient to assist. What should we do at this point? Have nowhere to live. You were expected to be grown-ups." I made a louder snap than I meant to. "You weren't asked to rely on me. I gave, and all I received in return was silence and entitlement. The one moment you were required." In fact, she scoffed. You're overstating things. You are not some terrible victim after one operation. I didn't respond. For a long time, she stood there murmuring to herself. She eventually departed once more, but she wasn't finished. My phone started exploding that afternoon. Makes calls, text messages, voicemails, somewhere. She, somewhere. Jason. I hadn't spoken to several of my extended family members in months. All of a sudden, they want to hear my perspective. I became aware that something had shifted at that point. Anne-Marie said she was informing everyone. Mom had claimed that I'd gone insane following surgery and had suddenly chosen to punish them by threatening to put them out of their house. Claimed they were afraid for their safety and that I was abusive with money. I choked on my water after that one. I'm afraid. After 6 years of them essentially living off of me, I was suddenly a threat. I considered composing a dramatic, large-scale message. It's one of those postings called Here's the Truth, in which I list all of my expenses, loans, and bills. However, I didn't. I made 2 calls instead. To the automobile dealership was the first. I described the situation and informed them that I was terminating Jason's lease. Legally complex, but they threatened to take back the automobile if he didn't make one more payment, which he had previously done. I'm good with it. The second was to the landlord to whom I had been making payments. Hello, this is Daniel. You should send notifications and rent to the renters in Unit 3B moving ahead, as I am no longer financially liable for them. She paused. Are you certain that the account already has a balance? I'm positive. That night I hung up and sat in the silence. The door was knocked on again. It was Jason this time. He didn't yell. He didn't make a splash. He simply remained there, looking into the crowd as if he could see right through me. Just talk to me, Dan guy. His voice was quieter than I had heard it in a long time. We're in a terrible place, and I know Mom has been theatrical. My automobile is going to be lost. She's going crazy. I understand. Come on, you were angry. I spoke loud enough for him to hear, but I didn't open the door. I did everything I could for you. You can now give me one item. Quiet. He continued to stand there. Then I heard him turn to go. However, something that occurred the next day nearly forced me to open that door. A white envelope with no address for return, simply left beneath my door. A hard copy of my medical bill is included. Not a word. Only the bill. They had obtained my insurance information. I froze somehow. Then, because it was no longer just passive aggression, I felt a searing fire rise in my chest. It was war. I had finished being pleasant. I spent a lot of time staring at the bill, not because I was perplexed, but because I understood exactly what it was, a reminder, a warning, or a message. Mom was stating that we know how much you spent and we can make use of it. She had somehow seen my letter while I was comatose in the hospital, or worse, someone from the insurance company, of course. In any case, it was suddenly intrusive and intimate in a way that made my skin crawl. I repositioned the envelope beneath the door. No response, no note. I was aware that they were most likely waiting outside, expecting me to arrive irate and agitated, but I refused to give them that. Rather, I worked on something I should have done years ago for the next few hours. I downloaded all of my invoices, auto payments, and other documents that connected my identity to their funds, printed statements, and took screenshots of text communications. I began itemizing each dollar of rent from January 2019 to March 2025 after opening an Excel spreadsheet. Groceries, utilities, Jason's. I covered Carly's mother's emergency dental procedure when she forgot her insurance had expired. Even simple stuff like streaming accounts and receipts she had sought via Venmo but never paid back were counted by me. Jason's now defunct men's coaching company hosted a weekend retreat. The sum totaled 97.8 bao. I had to take a breath after looking at that figure. Nearly $100,000. Over the course of 6 years that I was alive, money was silently and covertly taken out of my bank account, as if I was simply getting by and believing I was being a decent son. I emailed myself everything that night, packed everything into a password-protected folder, and made 2 backups because I hadn't said no once. I desired it, even though I didn't intend to use it. I heard a knock on the door once more the next morning. It was measured and forceful, without being noisy. I almost burst out laughing as I scanned the crowd. Uncle Ron was there. It was, of course. Uncle Ron fixed things for the family, not in a legal sense. Although he managed a gym, he was also the self-appointed emotional go-between who constantly stepped in when conflict arose. The man who, despite being expelled from a Dave & Buster's for tossing over a Monopoly board on a family evening, gave everyone uninvited TED presentations on sacrificing pride and choosing peace over ego. He had a tray of coffee cups in his hands. Peacemaker mode has been engaged. I pulled the door open. Only a crack. He said, "Hey, buddy." The salesperson had a big smile on his face. "I didn't want to bother you. I just wanted to stop by and chat." I remained silent. He held out a coffee to the opening in the door. "It's dark, just the way you want it." Silently, I took the cup gently. He shifted uncomfortably and cleared his throat. "Look, Jason is also quite irritated with your mom, and I understand. The entire situation has been chaotic. But family is like that. Words are mispronounced. Emotions are wounded. What matters is if they sent you." I inquired. He paused. No. I mean, I converse with them. Yes, but my concern is the reason I came. The entire circumstance. Please, it's not you. It's the tension. All of you are experiencing a great deal. At last, I folded my arms and went out into the hallway. "Ron, what specifically do you believe is going on?" He blinked. "According to what I've heard, you abruptly stopped talking to everyone. I get that you were in the hospital and all, but that seems a bit excessive, don't you think?" That deep, seething wrath flickered through me once again. However, I spoke calmly. I texted. I clarified. It wasn't theatrical on my part. After they disregarded me in a hospital bed for 6 years, I simply said that I couldn't continue to support them. He parted his lips. I wasn't finished, though. I wasn't requesting cash. I wasn't requesting a grand gesture. All I wanted was for someone to arrive. Rather, my mother said that I was not her duty. Do you believe I went too far? All right. However, don't pretend that I abandoned them out of resentment. Ron seemed abnormally solemn as he scratched his jaw. All okay, fair. Nevertheless, you must acknowledge that this is unhealthy for everyone. By now, they're barely making ends meet. The rent for your mom is past due. The vehicle may be repossessed. It ought to be taken back. Flatly, I replied. He never had it. I won't be spending any more money. It didn't sit well with him. Ron's voice changed. Dan, hurry up. Are you truly going to allow your mother to lose her house due to a miscommunication? I gazed at him. There was no miscommunication. Clarity was the key. Perhaps it's time for her to understand what true responsibility entails. Clearly sensing that I wasn't bending, he let out a sigh and took a step back. Okay, but don't think this will go away. You are aware of her personality. I gave a nod. Yes, I do. Muttering something beneath his breath about families destroying themselves for no apparent reason, he turned and left. I wasn't damaging anything, though. At last, I was halting the gradual bleeding. The days that followed were strangely silent. No phone calls, no voicemails, not even social media posts that are passive-aggressive. Nothing but quiet. For the first time in years, I took the opportunity to rest, concentrate on healing, and begin treatment, but I wasn't sure if it was a retreat or the quiet before a storm. Then one morning, my HR department sent me an email. It was marked as urgent. It seems that someone had anonymously called my place of employment and accused me of stealing software, abusing business finances, and being mentally unstable after a medical emergency. They just used ambiguous, provocative wording and no supporting proof, but the timing was too good to pass up, and a freshly made burner address for the sender. My stomach dropped as I sat at my desk and read the email 5 times over. Suddenly, this was about more than simply money. Its goal was to ruin me. And they were prepared to go much beyond what I had anticipated. I spent a lot of time staring at that email. I wasn't even upset at first. I was taken aback. The thought of someone from my own family trying to undermine my career was too much for my mind to process. But I knew in my heart, not merely in a nebulous positive sense, I recognized it as Mom. Jason lacked the intelligence to write an email in that manner. Furthermore, this was her form of retaliation. Clever and smart, but not loud or direct. She had always been preoccupied with how other people saw us. Currency was the way her image was viewed, and she was attempting to ruin my reputation now that I had severed our financial ties. It was obvious that the email was rubbish. Neither theft nor malfunction occurred. I was back at work doing my job well after receiving full clearance from HR. The harm, however, came from the suggestion that I was being discussed in whispers and that someone else believed I was unstable. I put my coffee down and opened the folder I had been working on. I had no desire to utilize it. I desired to recover, proceed, ignore them. They wouldn't allow me, though. They want conflict. All right, the soil would be burnt. I began by speaking with the landlord. I sent in an email with a record of every rent payment I had made over the previous several years under my name. I demanded an official removal from the leasing records, something I had previously left informal, and emphasized that I was no longer financially connected to them. Within an hour, he replied. I apologized and even offered to exclude my brother and mother from future leases due to their loud noises and repeated payment delays. I informed him that it wouldn't be required just yet. After that, I gave the dealership a call regarding Jason's vehicle. Officially, he had missed 3 installments. In order to initiate a voluntary repossession, I paid the remaining amount, approximately $900, which hurt. However, because I now had complete rights to repossess the car, it was worthwhile. After all, it was officially in my name. And I did. The repo truck arrived directly in front of their unit a week later. Wearing mismatched socks and running shirtless, Jason yelled at the man to call Dan as if I would rush in to stop it. As a kindness, the driver provided me the dashcam film from the truck, and I saw everything happen. Jason kicked the tire, yelled that it was against the law before tripping over the curb. The only thing I regret is not being present to give a clap. When I received a full-page email the next morning, Mom, who wasn't home at the time, made up for it. Subject line, "You dare, the body." I was accused of abandoning the lady who gave me life after a protracted emotional manipulation session and covert threats. Claimed that I had degraded her and abandoned them to starvation while I accumulated fortune like a callous miser. She threatened to sue me for mental distress. This is untrue, but her legal degree from Facebook probably indicated differently. I didn't answer. I sent one last email instead. Just an itemized invoice stating support provided to Elaine and Jason Whitmore with no sentiment attached. I added 97,842 after breaking it down. This debt collection is not lawful. It's a first-hand account of the 6 years of assistance I gave you both. This does not obligate me to continue to help you. Any more attempts to harm my reputation or get in touch with my employer will be deemed harassment and dealt with appropriately. Then I go beyond my real lawyer. For 2 weeks, they were completely silent. Perhaps it was finally over, I thought. Then my door was knocked on. Since the beginning of this, I had relocated. Quieter, but a smaller flat. No barriers in common. Gated access. Even management had been informed that I did not want my unit number to appear in the directory. I thus assumed it was a delivery when I heard the knock. Without verifying, I opened the door and saw my mother, who appeared frail, elderly, and worn out. She had uneven makeup. She gripped her handbag tightly as if it were armor. "Daniel," she murmured. Uncertain whether to close the door or simply go, I take a step back. She raised her hands and said, "I'm not here to fight. I simply want to chat, please." I didn't slam the door, but I also didn't let her in. On the frame, I leaned, crossed arms. "Hurry up." She glanced down, then up again. The apartment was gone to me. Jason is staying with a woman he met on the internet. I'm staying at a friend's house to sleep. I just wanted to apologize for keeping quiet. Her voice broke. I am aware that I made a mistake. I'm aware that I ought to have been there for you when you needed me. It wasn't until it was gone that I realized how much you were accomplishing. I suppose I simply assumed you would always be there. I let out a slow breath. That's the issue. You believed it was my duty to assist you. No, it wasn't. I know, she blurted out. Now I do. I'd like to make things right. I'd want to speak with you again. Aren't we still family? I clenched my jaw at that word. When it counts, family comes through, I remarked. Your family doesn't steal your mail or ruin your job. She muttered I was desperate. There was nothing more we could do. You had the option to call. When I was alone and unable to carry groceries after leaving the hospital, I stated, You didn't even ask how I was doing. She broke out in tears, but I was unmoved. I had shed enough tears for everyone. I also stopped allowing her to use remorse as a weapon. You won't get any money from me. I stated it clearly. I understand, she sniffed. I am not here to inquire. What do you want then? She paused. Just an opportunity to start over. Even if it takes years, even if it's sluggish. For once, I looked at her. The manipulator was not visible to me. I witnessed years of entitlement finally coming to an end. And I came to a realization. I didn't despise her. I simply didn't believe her. And it's unlikely that I ever will. I said I'm willing to be polite. I can only say that. My life is not open to you. My address isn't visible to you. I don't assist you. You can text, though. Maybe I'll respond sometime. Slowly, she nodded, similar to someone taking a life sentence. She then departed. Not a drama. No farewell shot. Nothing but quiet. It's been 6 months. Jason hasn't gotten back to me. Mom sent one SMS. I hope all is okay with you. I didn't respond. I've returned to my job. I'm more powerful, healthier. I have begun investing in my future. Savings. Go. I used to think it was selfish to deny myself small pleasures. I attend treatment once a week. I no longer feel bad about saying no. I still get the sting sometimes. As if I ought to have done more. As if it were horrible to cut them off. However, I then remember myself that I gave everything I had, and they offered me nothing in return when I needed even the tiniest bit. Family wasn't that. That was stepping away from reliance cloaked in guilt. I never showed myself affection till that moment.